Hey everyone, we're back for another episode of Ask GN. As always, leave your questions below for the next episode. This past episode, actually the last few episodes, have been getting a pretty good amount of views and a lot of questions, all of which, well, most of them have been pretty good. So I'm having trouble including all the ones I want to include in each episode. As always, if it's not addressed here, try posting it again, see if we can get to it. So for this week, the first question is from Ramus, King of Rome, who says, what's a fair price for a 970 when AMD 480 and 490s, which by the way isn't officially announced, we don't know if it will exist, but when those cards are released, what's a fair price for the 970? So this was kind of addressed by other commenters in that thread, but I can't really say what a fair price would be. I would say the best course of action at this point, if you're looking at something in that price range, would be to wait. I would wait until the 480 comes out, see how the RX 480 performs, and then at that point decide, does it make sense to buy a 970? If so, what price should it be? If they're at parity with each other, then the 970 should be the same price or lower than the 480, depending on what you're doing. But if they're not at parity, then the price should be adjusted accordingly. So there's really no good answer right now. The price was just dropped. For those of you who don't know, the 970, 980, and 980 Ti are now, for the most part, considerably cheaper than they used to be. I think the 980 Ti is now at the $500 range, used to be $650 for MSRP. The 970 I've seen as low as $380, or actually, that was the 980. The 980 is as low as $380 now. The 970 I've seen in the 200s. So those are the new prices. I don't know what you should pay when the 480 comes out. I'll have to reevaluate that when it's actually out. Next question, Blair Rice says, how long do you think it will be till the 1070 and 1080 add-in board partner cards will be easily available at the announced prices instead of $800 plus? So this is a good topic right now. If you go on Amazon or Newegg, on Newegg all of the 1080s are unavailable. They're out of stock. On Amazon, if you can find them, they're $1,000, which is a really bad price. Don't spend. It's a good card, but it is not a $1,000 video card, so don't spend that on those. So that's the price on Amazon right now. Amazon tends to have some opportunistic pricing, either by the retailers or by Amazon itself, depending on what's going on in the market. We've talked to a few board partners about this. We might have more information for you soon, or when this video goes up, it may already be on the channel. But basically, look toward late June to mid-July for some stabilization in the supply and demand side of the market. Right now, there's a lot more demand than supply from what we've been told. All the AIB partners are getting shipments daily, but it's still not enough to keep up. So that's sort of what you're looking at right now in terms of availability. It's going to be the next few, maybe 2 to 4 weeks in theory, if not more, but that's what we've been told officially. The next question is from Exiled Storm. This is a gaming side question. Exiled Storm says, what game are you most looking forward to from E3? Mine is definitely Forza Horizon 3 is what Exiled Storm says. So mine, this is not a PC game, but the one that most interested me was actually the new Zelda game, Breath of the Wild, and that's just because it looks cool. Let me give you some perspective on my console experience. The most recent console I own is a PS2. I guess there's technically a Wii, but it was never really used after launch month. But the PS2 is probably the most recent thing I have. So I don't know that I will actually ever get to play the new Zelda game, but it does look pretty good. It's definitely different from what the franchise has done. There are a ton of PC games, though. New Battlefield 1, Titanfall 2, ton of FPS games in general. The Elder Scrolls 6, while not officially announced, was sort of hinted at being in development by Bethesda. So that's another one on my radar, but it's not going to be out for years to come. So that's what I'd be looking at. But the next question, Kent Svun says, does pairing an AMD CPU with a Radeon GPU like the RX 480 get extra advantage or any difference than with Intel? So no, for AMD there is no such thing as this better together approach that we've seen in the past. The GPU will perform independently and the same. The only time that's different is with the dual GPU solution, which isn't really a thing anymore, but kind of worked for a little while with APUs, and I guess still kind of does with the correct GPU. But they were very low-end cards and not popular to pair together anyway. So no, an RX 480, as it stands now, should not see an advantage just because you use AMD. The best CPU for the job will depend on what you're doing, if it's DX11 or whatever. So no, there's no explicit, like, just because I'm using this brand for the CPU and GPU, it's better. That should answer that question. Next one is from Vsevolod Nedora, who says, thanks for another video. If you have a chance, please say a couple words about external graphics solution development. When do you think this technology will be supported by the majority of laptop companies? That's happening now. So MSI is already in gear doing this. Razer is supporting them because, of course, they're making the Razer Core. Asus is supporting it with their ROG laptops. They have their XG Station 2. PowerColor is making their Devil Box, or whatever it's called, Devil Box, I think is their solution. They don't make laptops, but yeah, that's happening this year, and next year it should be pretty reasonably saturated, I would think, on the market. But not quite here today, though, but it is on the way. Next question, to piggyback on UEFI versus Legacy from last video, does it affect gaming FPS if I have Windows 10 installed with Legacy or UEFI? No, not really. That's really all that needs to be said about this. Motherboards in general don't really impact FPS directly as a result of the board or the chipset. Some very small exceptions, but the differences would come from things like overclocking, which are available on one chipset, not another. But that's not a direct result of the board. That's a user said, I want to overclock this, so you need a Z series or whatever chipset board to do that. UEFI versus Legacy, you won't see an FPS difference. You'll see differences in your storage capacity. I think the Legacy limit is 2 terabytes or something, and it uses MBR instead of GPT. But no, not FPS. Next question, Ill2Xbox is back and says, it's a long question, but basically says, where should I put my PC? I have it on top of my desk. Is it bad if I put it in the compartment under my desk? There's a bit of space on the left and right in the top, but not a lot, and I only have intake in the front and exhaust in the back. So as long as you are putting your system in a space that's not fully enclosed, if you don't have side intake or ventilation, then the sides won't really matter too much. The front, don't have a door in front of it, don't have even like boxes or things like that. Just keep that completely 100% clear. If it's kind of recessed into the desk and there's not a lot of space in the back for the exhaust to come out before it hits the wall, then you might have some heat issues. That's what I would look at the most, is make sure there's a good amount of distance, a couple inches between the wall and where the exhaust is coming out, so that the hot air can ventilate and get pulled out of there, because it'll get trapped and kind of circulate and heat things up in your system if it gets trapped back there. But I don't like putting my systems in compartments like that. If you're doing anything with top ventilation, it's potentially a problem. But for front and back, you're probably fine for the most part. There will probably be a little bit of temperature difference just by nature of moving it from one part of the room to another. But it shouldn't be substantial, I would think. That is actually easy to test, though. Just install Hardware Monitor Plus 8/64 speed fan or something like that, and you can run it before you move the system, then run it after and see what the thermal difference is. Pretty easy, and I'd be interested to see your results too if you post them below. But last question, Greg Bourbon says, enough of this techno-babble. We really want to know, which products do you apply to your hair to keep it so lush and buoyant? Not sure I've seen that word used before in that context. Maybe if we hit 50,000 subscribers, I will release some kind of information, but I think I'd like to hear from L'Oreal or Pantene or so on before we give anyone free advertising. So that's all for this Ask GN. Comments below. Send your emails with questions to L'Oreal, Pantene, or other hair product manufacturers. Thanks for watching. Patreon link postal video. I'll see you all next time.